So before we get into talking about book 12, let's go over what happened in book 11. So Odysseus is still, remember, telling this story. This isn't actually the story happening. This is him telling what has happened while he's alone on the island of the Phaeacians. So he and his men did exactly as Circe said. They went down to the world of the dead. They offered their libations. They sacrificed the sheep. A bunch of ghosts started appearing. The first ghost that comes to them is Elpenor, who fell off the roof. He asks Odysseus to grieve for him and to bury his body properly when they get back to Aea. And Odysseus, of course, agrees, because that's not a huge request. The next ghost is his mother, but Odysseus doesn't let her even touch the blood. Tiresias shows up, and he drinks the blood of the slaughtered animals and then tells Odysseus that his journey home is going to be a wreck. It's going to be troublesome. Tiresias says that Odysseus angered Poseidon, the god of the sea, by blinding his son, Polyphemus. The men will reach home, says Tiresias, if they can leave the cattle of the sun unharmed. If they kill the cattle, Odysseus will come home alone and everyone else will die. Before they finally get home in peace, Odysseus will have to make one more voyage to a land far away from any sea and make some sacrifices to appease Poseidon. Only then will his travels come to an end. Odysseus asks Tiresias how to speak to his mom, and Tiresias says a ghost can only speak if it drank the animal's blood. So Odysseus lets his mom drink some of the blood, and she immediately recognized him. She tells him that his wife, Penelope, is still grieving and waiting for him, that his property, his estate, his house, is still in Telemachus's hands, his son's hands, and that his father is living alone in poverty and solitude. She had died of grief and longing for Odysseus, so Odysseus did not know that she was dead before this. Odysseus tries to hug her, but she disappears. Every time he tries to hug her, she disappears. Then Odysseus ends his tale. He says it's getting late. He'll continue it tomorrow. The king and queen of the Phaeacians say that they'll give him many good gifts if he stays on, and describes the soldiers and heroes he met in the land of the dead. He talks about his conversation with Agamemnon, who's a great warrior. The ghost discussed his wife's infidelity or his wife's cheating on him. And he says that his wife's behavior is a stain on women everywhere. Now remember, he is telling this to a man who has slept around on his own wife. Agamemnon advises Odysseus to keep things hidden from his wife and arrive home in secret and in disguise. Next, Odysseus talks to Achilles, who said he'd rather be a slave on earth than a king in the land of the dead. Achilles is a great warrior who achieved a lot of glory while he was alive, but now that he's dead, he wants to get rid of all that glory so that he could be alive again. Again, this is just kind of this theme of like glory not really being the thing people want, right? Everyone went to Troy to find glory, but the problem is not that they found glory. The problem is it wasn't what they wanted. Now they just want to get home, or they just want to be alive. The glory itself doesn't matter that much. Now we're going into book 12, The Cattle of the Sun. Now when our ship had left the ocean river rolling in her wake, and had launched out into open sea with its long swells to reach the island of Aea, east where the dawn, forever young, has home and dancing rings, and the sun his risings. Heading in, we beached our crafts on the sands. The crews swung out on low, sloping shore, and there we fell asleep, awaiting dawn's first light. So they come back from the land of the dead and immediately park their ship there at Aea near Circe, and they go to sleep. As soon as dawn, with her rose-red fingers shown again, I dispatched some men to Circe's halls to bring the dead Elpenor's bodies. We cut logs in haste, and out on the island's sharpest jutting headland, held his funeral rites in sorrow, streaming tears. So this is the promise they made to Elpenor in Book 11, that they were going to give his body a proper burial. And what they did is they cut down some trees, they made a big fire, and they put his body in that fire, and they mourned him. They cried for him. They kept him in their memories. Once we'd burned the dead man and the dead man's armor, heaping his grave mound, hauling a stone that coped it well, we planted his balanced oar aloft to crown his tomb. So they bury the body, right, the parts that don't burn and the ashes. They bury him with his armor, and they cover it with a bunch of dirt, and then they cover it with a stone, with a big rock, and then they put the oar that he rowed the boat with, they put right there on top of it as well. And so we saw to his rights each step in turn, nor did our coming back from death escape Circe. She hurried toward us, decked in rich regalia, handmaids following close with trays of bread and meats galore and glinting ruddy wine. So remember, Circe has 4 handmaids. She comes running to them dressed in beautiful clothes. Rich regalia, just meaning beautiful clothes. And her 4 handmaids, the 4 water nymphs, the spirits of the water that follow her around and help her, they come with bread and meat and wine, everything to eat and drink. And the lustrous goddess standing in our midst hailed us warmly. Ah, my darling, reckless friends, you who ventured down to the house of death alive, doomed to die twice over. Others die just once. So this is Circe's greeting to them, right? Hello, my darling, my dear, my wonderful, my reckless, my difficult friends, my ones who throw caution to the wind. My friends. This time she greets them as friends. Last time, remember, she greeted them and turned them into pigs. This time she greets them as friends. She says, you who ventured down to the house of death alive, doomed to die twice over. So she is talking about, okay, you essentially went into hell, well, into Tartarus, where all of the dead go. And that's a sort of death, right? It's sort of a death, a spiritual death, like a reawakening now that they've come back. And she says now they're doomed to die twice. Once they already have died. They've gone down to the house of death. Once again, they are doomed to die at the end of their lives. So far, the men have returned to Aea, performed all the proper funeral rites for Elpenor, and buried his body. Before they can leave, Circe comes and brings them all this food. And she says, come and take some food and drink some wine. Rest here the livelong day, and then tomorrow at daybreak you must sail. So they don't get to stay here a year anymore. They have to leave immediately the next morning. So daybreak is when dawn rises, and they're having to leave right when dawn approaches. But I will set you a course and chart each sea mark, so neither on sea nor land will some new trap ensnare you in trouble, make you suffer more. So Circe says, hey, I'm going to make you a map, and this map is going to show all of the problems and everything you might run into. And that is going to ensure that you don't run into more, let's say, giants who eat people, right? This map is going to make sure you only land where it is safe to be. Her foresight won our fighting spirits over. Again, Odysseus is making excuses as to why he's staying here. He says that Circe, again, she talks so well. We just have to stay. So all that day, till the sun went down, we sat and feasted on sides of meat and heady wine. And then when the sun had set and night came on, the men lay down to sleep by the ship's stern cables. But Circe, taking me by the hand, drew me away from all my shipmates there, and sat me down, and lying beside me, probed me for details. So all of his men get to sleep, but Odysseus is awoken by Circe and has to go and hang out with her and tell her all about the land of the dead. That is the key. I told her the whole story, start to finish. Then the queenly goddess laid my course. So he tells her everything. And then Circe laid my course just means that she made him a map and she told him where he's going to go. Your descent to the dead is over, true, but listen closely to what I tell you now, and God himself will bring it back to mind. First, you will raise the island of the Sirens, those creatures who spellbind any man alive, whoever comes their way. Whoever draws too close, off guard, and catches sirens' voices in the airs. No sailing home for him, no wife rising to meet him, no happy children beaming up at their father's face. So she first warns him, your first problem is going to be the sirens. And the sirens sing a song that will make you forget everything. So if you get too close to them, all of a sudden, the sirens will make you forget everything. Once again, we have this theme of memory and the loss of memory leading to the loss of home and the loss of the goals. The high, thrilling songs of the sirens will transfix him, lolling there in their meadows, round them heaps of corpses, rotting away, rags of skin shriveling on their bones, race straight past that coast. So she tells him, anyone who hears this song of the sirens has to come and be with them. They try to lure men to death with their songs. The sirens stay in meadows with heaps of just dead bodies around them, these corpses all around them. But the corpses don't turn people away because of the song, right? So Circe has told Odysseus he must pass the island of the sirens, who will try to lure the men to their death with their songs. Soften some beeswax and stop your shipmates' ears so none can hear, none of the crew. But if you are bent on hearing, have them tie you hand and foot to the swift ship, erect at the mast block, lashed by ropes to the mast, so you can hear the siren song to your heart's content. So Circe hears, she knows Odysseus. She's a goddess. She knows everything. And she says, okay, you need to make sure your men are deaf. Make sure they cannot hear anything. So put beeswax in their ears so that they won't hear anything. But she knows Odysseus, and she knows he will want to hear. And she says, if you really want to hear them, hear the siren song, then have your crew tie you up to the mast, the big pole on your ship, so that way you can hear the siren song and nothing else will happen. Now, this is not the first time Odysseus has tied someone to something, but this is the first time that his crew will tie him up. But if you plead, commanding your men to set you free, then they must lash you faster, rope on rope. So she says, if you ask your men to set you free, if you hear the song and you say, oh, please let me go there, if that is what happens, have them tie you tighter. Have them use more rope. Make sure you cannot leave the ship. You cannot control the ship. So she advises Odysseus to put the beeswax in the men's ears and that they tie him to the mast if he insists on hearing the siren's songs. So the power of music is again a very compelling thing. We saw that with Circe when she was singing way at the beginning, and it convinced all the men to come inside and get turned into pigs. Here we have the song of the sirens that create pure, unmotivated, unmitigated desire. It's just desire. And it overrides any part of anyone who hears it. It overrides any desire for home, any desire for life, any desire for anything else. This is again a selfish desire that lacks all self-restraint and has no object but personal satisfaction. Once again, we have this theme of memory coming up. The siren's song will make you forget, just like the lotus flower will make people forget, and Circe's potions made people forget. The power of memory, of remembering things, is such an important theme in this story, in this book. And so it's important to keep in mind that memory itself plays a huge role. But once your crew has rowed you past the sirens, the choice of route is yours. I cannot advise you which to take or lead you through it all. You must decide for yourself. But I can tell you the ways of either course. So Circe says, okay, once you get past the sirens, there are two paths you can take. And I can't tell you, I can't make the decision for you. I cannot tell you what you should and should not do. But I'll tell you what happens each way. On one side, beetling cliffs shoot up, and against them pound the huge roaring breakers of blue-eyed Amphitrite, the clashing rocks they're called by all the blissful gods. Not even birds can escape them. No, not even the doves that veer and fly ambrosia home to Father Zeus. Even of those, the sheer rocks always pick off one, and Father wings one more to keep the number up. So on one side, we have these huge cliffs that just destroy everything that gets near them. No ship of men has ever approached and slipped past, and always some disaster, big timbers and sailors' corpses whirled away by the waves and lethal blasts of fire. So these rocks are dangerous not only because they have giant waves hitting across them, not only because the ocean, Father, right, Circe's dad, picks off some birds. Not only because of that, but they're also shooting out fire and lava. These are very dangerous rocks. One ship alone, one deep-sea craft sailed clear, the Argo, sung by the world, when heading home from Aeetes' shores. And she would have crashed against those giant rocks and sunk at once if Hera, for love of Jason, had not sped her through. So we refer to ships as she. So here, right, this she and this her refer to the Argo, the ship that Jason and the Argonauts sailed in order to find the Golden Fleece. And the only reason they survived is that the Queen of the Gods, Hera, she loved Jason so much, she made sure everyone was safe. Odysseus does not have someone like that on his side. He does not have any of the gods on his side. Now we're going to hear about the other path. On the other side loom two enormous crags. One thrusts into the vaulting sky its jagged peak, hooded round with a dark cloud that never leaves. No clear, bright air can ever bathe its crown, not even in summer's heat or harvest time. So we hear about the other path. one side of this path has a huge mountain that never has sunlight on top. It's always covered in a dark cloud. No man on earth could scale it, mount its crests, not even with 20 hands and 20 feet for climbing. The rocks so smooth, like dressed and burnished stone. So she says you can't climb up it. It's like marble. It's very sheer. It's very smooth. It's very solid. And so no one can climb up it. And halfway up that cliffside stands a fog-bound cavern, gaping west towards Erebus' realm of death and darkness. Past it, great Odysseus, you should steer your ship. So Circe says, I can't choose the path for you, but she also says, you should take this particular path. The one near this cave. This cave that's full of fog and darkness and death. This is where you need to steer your ship toward. No rugged young archer could hit that yawning cave with a winged arrow shot from off the decks. So the cave is so high up, no arrow could hit it. Scylla lurks inside, the yelping horror, yelping no louder than any suckling pup. But she's a grisly monster, I assure you. So Scylla is this monster that Circe calls the yelping horror. A yelp is like the sound that tiny little puppies make, or a dog might make if you step on the end of its tail. And she says, Scylla's no louder than a little tiny baby puppy who's still sucking milk from its mother. Scylla is not very loud, but Circe says she is dangerous. She's grisly, she's gross, she's disgusting. No one could look on her with any joy, not even a god who meets her face to face. She is so gross, you cannot feel happiness, no matter what, even if you look at her. Then we're going to get a description of her. She has 12 legs, all writhing, dangling down. So she has 12 legs kind of like snakes, and they all move, and they're all dangling out of the cave down the cliffside. They're just hanging there, wiggling like snakes. And 6 long, swaying necks, a hideous head on each. So she has 6 heads with very long necks, kind of like a dinosaur, like a brontosaurus. Each head barbed with a triple row of fangs, thick set, packed tight, armed to the hilt with black death. So inside each of her mouths, which she has 6 mouths, each mouth has 3 rows of very, very sharp teeth. And they are packed together. Think of like a shark's teeth, like a great white shark. All of those very sharp teeth Scylla has filling her entire mouth. Holed up in the cavern's bowels from her waist down, she shoots out her heads, out of that terrifying pit, angling right from her nest, wildly sweeping the reefs for dolphin, dogfish, or any bigger quarry she can drag from the thousands Amphitrite spawns in groaning seas. Circe is telling us how Scylla survives, and Scylla survives by darting her mouths out into the water and picking up any fish, any dolphins, anything she can catch, she eats. And Amphitrite is the goddess of the seas, and here Circe is saying like Amphitrite is responsible for creating the fish. No mariners yet can boast they've raced their ship past Scylla's lair without some mortal blow. With each of her 6 heads she snatches up a man from the dark proud craft and whisks him off. So Circe says, no mariners, no people who are on boats can boast. No people on boats can kind of brag that they've gone past Scylla's home without someone dying, without some mortal blow. Because with each of her 6 heads, she snatches up a man from the dark proud craft and whisks him off. So 6 men are going to die. And Circe has just told Odysseus to choose this path, to go through Scylla's lair. The other crag is lower, you will see, Odysseus, though both lie side by side and arrows shot apart. Atop it a great fig tree rises, shaggy with leaves. Beneath it, awesome Charybdis gulps the dark water down. So there's another cliff. Scylla's cliff never sees the sun and is very, very tall. The other cliff is lower, but it's still a cliff, and they're pretty close together. They're an arrow shot apart. On top of this cliff is a giant tree, and beneath this cliff is something called Charybdis, who gulps dark water down, and we're going to hear about Charybdis now. 3 times a day she vomits it up, 3 times she gulps it down. That terror, don't be there when the whirlpool swallows down. Not even the earthquake god could save you from disaster. So here we hear about Charybdis. Charybdis drinks down all of the water of the ocean and creates a giant whirlpool, this swirl of water. And Circe says, no one can save you if you end up in that water. If you end up in the whirlpool, you are gone. Not even Poseidon, god of the seas, could save you from that. No, hug Scylla's crag, sail on past her top speed. Better by far to lose 6 men and keep your ship than lose your entire crew. So Circe has advised Odysseus to choose Scylla's violence over the whirlpool of Charybdis. But of course Odysseus is not going to be happy. He doesn't want 6 people to die. Yes, but tell me the truth now, goddess, I protested. He's like, yeah, but be real. Be honest with me. Deadly Charybdis, can't I possibly cut and run from her and still fight Scylla off when Scylla strikes my men? Odysseus is showing himself the sort of like the warrior he's supposed to be at this point. He says, look, can't I just go around Charybdis and fight Scylla, like attack her so that she can't actually hit the men? It's possible that here Odysseus is kind of jealous of Jason. Way back up here. Where is it? Here. It's possible that Odysseus is jealous of Jason and the Argo, getting the favor of the gods and doing such amazing feats that no one else has ever wanted to do. It's possible also that he just wants to make sure all of his men are safe. So stubborn, the lovely goddess countered, hell-bent yet again on battle and feats of arms. Can't you bow to the deathless gods themselves? So Circe calls him stubborn and says, ugh, you're still on this whole like fighting and war thing? Scylla's no mortal. She's an immortal devastation. Terrible, savage, wild. No fighting her, no defense. Just flee the creature. That's the only way. So Circe tells us Scylla is not mortal. She can't be killed. She's devastation incarnate. She is devastation in a physical form. She is terrible, savage, wild. There is no way to fight her. There's no defense against her. The only way is to just get past her as fast as possible. Waste any time arming for battle beside her rock. I fear she'll lunge out again with all of her 6 heads and seize as many men. So Circe is like, look, if you sit there preparing for battle, you're going to lose 12 men instead of 6. Scylla is going to eat the 6 and then come back for more. No, row for your lives. Invoke brute force, I tell you. Scylla's mother, she spawned her to scourge mankind. She can stop the monster's next attack. So Circe says only Scylla's mom can stop her. No one else can stop Scylla at all. And she says, just go past as fast as possible. Then you will make the island of Thrinacia, where herds of the sun god's cattle graze, and fat sheep, and 7 herds of oxen, as many sheep flocks rich and woolly, 50 in each head. So she talks about this island, Thrinacia, and the sun god, Helios. He has his cattle there, and his sheep, and his oxen. And so there he has 7 herds of oxen, 7 herds of sheep, and each herd has 50 animals in it. So there's a lot of animals here. No breeding swells their number, nor do they ever die. So they don't make more. They don't have babies. So there's no way to replace them. But they also don't die. They're immortal, in a way. And goddesses herd them on, nymphs with glinting hair, Phaethusa, Lampeti, born to the sun god Helios by radiant Neaera. Their queenly mother bred and reared them both, then settled them on the island of Thrinacia, their homeland seas away, to guard their father's sheep and longhorn cattle. So Circe says, okay, there's going to be a lot of animals there. And there's 2 people who control these animals, Phaethusa and Lampeti. These are the children, the daughters of the god of the sun, of Helios. And they were specifically born and specifically raised to make sure that these herds of cattle and of sheep stay safe. Leave the beasts unharmed, your mind set on home, and you all may still reach Ithaca, bent with hardship, true, but harm them in any way, and I can see it now, your ship destroyed, your men destroyed as well. So she says, look, if you kill any of these animals, then all your men will die, and you will lose your ship. If you don't kill them, then you will still reach Ithaca, and you'll be okay. Even if you escape, you'll come home late, all shipmates lost, and come a broken man. This was the curse the Cyclops put on him. Almost in the same words, back in book 9. Make sure he comes home late and comes home a broken man. So Circe has told him a couple things. She told him the crew must choose a path. There's the bashing rocks, or between Scylla and Charybdis. She says Scylla is a horrible, terrible, disgusting, 6-headed monster, and Charybdis is this whirlpool that sucks whole ships down into the sea 3 times a day. Only the ship, the Argo, has passed between them with no lives lost. Circe says, Odysseus, go near Scylla. Sacrifice 6 men instead of your whole ship. Odysseus asks if he can escape Charybdis and fight off Scylla, but Circe chastised him for his stubbornness. Scylla is immortal and cannot be defeated. Scylla is not really a goddess, right? She's not like the goddess of the sea or of sunlight or of witchcraft. But she is immortal, meaning she cannot be killed. She, because she is immortal, it would be kind of against religion, kind of against the gods in general. It would be impious for a mortal person like Odysseus to try and fight an immortal being like Scylla. It would just essentially annoy the gods more and not solve anything. And then Circe tells him about the island of the cattle of the sun. Says, if you hurt any of the animals, if you kill any of them, your ship will be destroyed, your men will all die, and you might still make it home, but you'll be broken and you'll be late. All right, we will continue this in the next video.